Hi everybody, my name is Jonna-Lynn Taylor. I am a nurse manager at Kaiser Permanente Oakland of a medical surgical unit and also a telemetry unit. Not only that, I am a student at Cal State East Bay. I'm working on my master's in healthcare administration. So what I'd like to do is talk to everybody here about leadership. Now, and I do want you guys to understand when I say leadership, I mean something different than management. I am a manager, that's a fact, but nobody knows what type of leader I am unless you're on my team or observant of me and my team. And what I want to talk about the type of leadership that allows one to bring out the strengths and talents of their team members. So my presentation is on effective leadership through identifying individual strengths and talents of team members. So our learning objectives for today is answering the question, what is leadership and how is leadership different for management? In addition, why is effective leadership crucial to successful management? How do you get your team to follow the leader? How does a leader identify strengths and talents of team members? And what is the benefit of identifying and utilizing strengths and talents of team members? So first, let's answer that question. What is leadership and how is it different for management? So isn't leadership and management the same thing? I was hired as a manager and I obviously lead the team, right? Is there any evidence that this stressed out young lady with multiple arms is leading a team? Well, not all managers are effective leaders. Management is a job title and leadership is a skill that must be developed. A leader can pull in a motivated team to prevent becoming an octopus. So what is leadership? How is it different from management? George B. Weathersby in 1999 defines management as the allocation of scarce resources against an organization's objective, setting the priorities, the design of the work, and the achievement of results. Most important, it is about controlling. Now this definition says nothing about a team, it says nothing about teamwork. It basically says that you're using resources, you're trying to do less with more, and you're trying to meet organizational results. How does one meet organizational objectives? And how does one achieve results? By being an expert at every task, by doing every task. That is absolutely impossible. You can't be an expert at everything. And there's not enough time in a day to do everything. But George B. Weathersby further defines that leadership focuses on the creation of a common vision and encouraging them to align their self-interest with that of the organization. So now with leadership, you're pulling others in to meet these priorities that you have as a manager. So how does one meet organizational objectives? How does one achieve results? By understanding your own strengths and talents and using them to strengthen your effectiveness as a leader, by identifying and utilizing individual strengths and talents of team members. That's a little more realistic. So why is effective leadership crucial to successful management? Basically, you don't want to be this lady. She's a jack of all trades and a master of none because there's no way that all of us can excel at every single task that's involved with achieving organizational objectives. So leadership, alone we can do so little, Helen Keller says, but together we can do so much. We've got a well-organized, fine-tuned machine where everyone has responsibilities. How do you get your team to follow the leader? Well, first you need to know thyself. Buckingham and Clifton, in their famous book, says that it's important that you know your own strengths. A leader's successful performance is greatly influenced by the utilization of her strengths and talents as opposed to investing energy to improve weaknesses. So you want to show your strengths. And you want to not focus on your weaknesses, because that's a waste of time when you're presenting yourself to your team. You want to show them how strong and what an expert you are. So there are various strategies that can be used to identify strengths and weaknesses. Identify personality and character traits. So there's different ways that you can go about this. Now, Buckingham and Clifton's technique is the Strength Finders Profile, which asks a series of questions that helps to analyze what are your strengths, what are the character traits that best define you professionally. And the Jung typology test is another series of questions that you answer. It gives you a description of your characteristics and your strengths. I highly recommend working with a mentor or coach, someone that can keep your best interests in mind and not so much a competitor. And ask your colleagues for feedback. Be ready to hear some things you don't want to hear, but look them in the eye, ask them what they think about your work performance, about the way that you treat others, and just any feedback that they can give you. Be willing to listen. Don't be offended, but really use the feedback to explore yourself and what you can be doing better as a leader and who you are as a leader. Once you know what your strengths are, you want to master your strengths with formal and informal education, intentionally putting behaviors into practice, taking on tasks and projects that allow your strengths to shine. Whatever your method, you want to come across as a person that's worth emulating. So how do you get to your team to follow the leader? We're going to continue to explore that using John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership. Now, he illustrates leadership as 5 progressive steps. Some of us don't get to step 5, but leaders do everything in their power to get to step 5. So let's look at each step, and I'm going to interpret it as to what it means to me. So the first step in leadership is position, the rights, your rights to leadership. You got a job. You understand the organizational objectives. You understand that your role is to be a manager. You plan, organize, you staff, you influence, and you control. The second is permission. That's when you do your relationship building. You let your team know who you are, you make yourself vulnerable to them, and they do the same. They allow you to get to know them. So you have shown interest in your employees, you are getting to know them, you have shown that you are a servant, willing to nurture their needs and provide psychological safety. The next step is production, results. Your team is committed to meeting organizational objectives, and individuals have aligned their professional goals with organizational goals. Your team is meeting its bottom line. You're getting things done. The most important in helping your team find its strengths is people development. Now, what is people development? Individuals fill roles that are in alignment with their individual strengths and talents. Leaders support staff development. And then the final step, which we all hope to reach as leaders, myself included, and I'm probably not there yet, but pinnacle. And that's the respect factor. And employees believe in their leader so intensely that they would follow their leader to the edge of the earth. They admire, they want to mimic their own behavior behind their leaders. And it takes a lot of trust and a lot of work to get to that point with your team. So I want to share my story with everybody, just to kind of give us some perspective. And I think everybody pretty much has a story of how somebody has influenced them by investing in them. So more about people development. Investing in the individual really does matter. So here's my story. My mentor saw potential in me that I didn't see. While I was a staff nurse, she, the department manager, told me she saw far greater things in store for my career. I thought she was overestimating, and I told her. That didn't stop her from bugging me constantly about attending classes and seminars, learning how to network and dressing nicely, not showing my youth through my choice of jewelry and the condition of my scrubs. All the attention began to make me feel accountable. maybe there is something exceptional about me. I began investigating what those exceptional strengths might be. As I developed an awareness of what felt gratifying about my work, what parts came natural, and what parts I could do all day while time flew by, I stopped taking my strengths for granted, and I discovered that I am quite unique. My mentor allowed me to feed my strengths. I attended employee workshops, I served on committees and projects, and ultimately began pursuing an advanced degree. I am currently a department manager sitting in my mentor's old office. Who would have thought? Well, she did. So how can a leader identify and develop strengths and talents of team members? Well, the way I see it, people development requires that individuals recognize their own strengths and talents. Often they must be convinced because they take their strengths for granted, kind of like I did. It may take leaders observation and interaction to identify the strengths and motivate the team members to stretch their capabilities by utilizing those strengths. So Tim Clark in 2014 identified some strength advocate behaviors that we as leaders can use to help identify the strengths of team members. So name the strengths. They don't always know. You might ask somebody what they're good at and they don't know because they do it, it's natural, and they figure everybody can do it, but just convince them that that's not the case. Incorporate their strengths into performance reviews. Constantly remind them and ask them, what are you doing to nurture your strengths? And give them some credit. And assign team projects and special assignments based on the employee's strengths. Find them something to do that's meaningful. So concluding this presentation, let's ask ourselves, in a hectic hustle and bustle, deadline and performance-driven work environment, is it always worth it to spend that time to sit down with each employee, get to know them, convincing them that they are great and find meaningful work for them? Absolutely, absolutely. Why? Well, a manager can't be a leader when she's micromanaging. If the team members are assigned to tasks that match their strengths, a leader can delegate responsibilities and trust that quality results will occur. Secondly, employees that spend their work hours utilizing their strengths and talents are happy employees. And finally, when employees are happy and fulfilled, they want to do a great job. Productivity and employee retention will increase. So in conclusion, I'm a manager, but unless you see me in action, unless you can see how my team responds and what we're able to do as a unit, you don't know that I'm a leader. But for me to engage my team and bring the best out of them so that we do meet the bottom line, I have to get to know them. They have to get to know themselves, and we all collectively have to know our strengths. Thank you, everybody, and I hope that was helpful.